right, making sure that everybody is in. Okay, welcome, everyone. My name is William Honablu Jr. I am the Community Impact Manager for the Office of Broadband and Digital Equity in Baltimore City's Office of Information Technology. We welcome you here, and thank you very much for joining us today. We have an incredible opportunity for us to have conversation and learn about best practices and partnering with faith-based institutions in our attempts to close the digital divide. So let me tell you, the purpose of the event today is to explore the best practices for providers in the digital ecosystem to work with faith-based organizations. The goal is to support service providers and faith-based institutions to establish mutually beneficial partnerships and collaborations that generate positive outcomes for the residents that we all serve. All of that to say, things have changed as far as funding and priorities and things like that are concerned at the national level. And it is more important than ever that we work together to ensure that no one gets left behind as we start trying, or we continue our efforts to close the digital divide. We have a pretty packed agenda for you today. The first thing we're going to do is talk about a little practical experience. We'll have Ms. Lillian Trotman come and talk about her experience with the Johnson Square Digital Equity Hub. Then we'll have Dr. Amanda Phillips DeLucas come and talk to us about kind of the data and the intersectionality of faith-based institutions and the digital divide. We'll have a panel discussion with some really incredible panelists who have a lot of broad experience in working with faith institutions, particularly in efforts around equity and inclusion. Then we're going to have a little bit of time for question and answers, and then we'll wrap up. After we wrap up, there'll be my team and I and some of the panelists who are able to will stay behind and be happy to answer any questions after after the formal portion of the program is over. We'll also be sending you an evaluation so that you can let us know how we're doing and what other information that you all may want and or need. There are a couple of ground rules because we want to make sure that the summit is as accessible as possible. If you are not speaking, we ask that you stay muted. The reason why is that some people are having this summit transcribed, and so if there's a lot of speaking and cross-talking, it may mess up the transcription for them. During the presentations, and I think we only have the one from Amanda, please don't put things in the chat because people who are using screen readers to read the text that are on the screen, when you put stuff in the chat, it'll throw it off and it'll try to read that while it's reading the other part. Becomes difficult sometimes for them to understand and keep up. And when you speak, please describe yourself so the participants who are visually impaired can have a sense of who you are. For example, I am William Honablu Jr. I am an African-American man. I am bald. I have a beard and I'm cute. Real quick though, before we get started and before Amanda does her presentation, if you all wouldn't mind, those who choose to, please make sure, or please drop your contact information in the chat. So that, and again, it's not required, but if you would like to stay involved or want to network with the other people on the line, please feel free to do that. Okay, I see Maynard is in the chat acting a fool, but that's okay. That's what Chris Maynard does. Chris and I go back a long time. Like when you actually start thinking about the time frame, you're like, wow, that's a long time. So I'm not going to mention the numbers.
Amen.
All right, sir. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this over to Miss Lillian and thank her for her participation now. Miss Lil, you're on mute.
Good morning. Yes, I have a bad habit of speaking and I'm on mute. Good morning, everyone. My name's Lillian Trotman, and I am an African American older adult. And I'm grateful to be here this morning to share with you my experience with building out a computer hub in the community where the participants can come and enjoy and learn and fellowship. So it's more than just training, but this computer hub, it encompasses many things. I personally was not, this was not in my plan to be a part of this project. I was asked to open the church doors for a group of people to come and look at our location. Unbeknownst to me, that this was a project that I would be taking on. And so the partnership for the Computer Hub had already been established through Rebuild Johnson Square Neighborhood Organization. And our executive director, Ms. Regina Hammond, had already been in conversation and collaborating with different partners. So as we were going along with the project, I found myself, being involved in it unintentionally. But sometimes there is this divine appointment that happens. And so in the faith-based community, we understand what that means. We may have one plan, but God always has another plan for us. And so it ended up being my project that I embraced with others who, without partnering with them, it never would have happened. We partnered with the state of Maryland. We got funding from them, and that funding was matched by the Robert Deutsch Foundation. And with that funding, we were able to partner with the Neighborhood Design Center, who designed out the space that we needed in order to set up this hub. We were able to partner with BSID. We put in for the Civic Fund grant, and we were awarded a grant that helped us to purchase the furniture and the devices, the equipment that we needed to build out this hub. We partnered with members of the community because we wanted to bring them into the project, members of the church. And when I tell you these young people, they had some ideas that I probably never would have thought of. Things that in terms of design and colors and, the Neighborhood Design Center, just their involvement with designing out the space and then not wanting to leave. They were with the project to its fruition. They came up with the best furniture for the space, and they also came up with things that I just never even thought we would need in this space. But everything worked out pretty well, and we were able to, it's been a year that we've had the ribbon cutting for this community hub. So, with everyone being involved in the process, it has evolved into bigger projects because we had the Chromebook project that many seniors were able to get a Chromebook. And so now we have to shift our focus from the Chromebook training to laptop training to desktop training. All of these things helped us to shape the community's involvement and their knowledge of what they were actually involved in. And so another offspring of it is that we had neighborhood nursing program that came in and say, hey, can we, get involved in your process where we can meet people that are already attending, and being involved in the computer hub. So this has evolved into partnerships that we did not foresee, but has been a blessing to the community, the faith-based community, the community as a whole, and Baltimore City, because we turn no one down. We're open. and available for anyone who needs our services. Now, I don't want to be too wordy, so you let me know if I've said enough.
Oh no, if you have anything else that you want to share, please feel free.
Okay.
You have some more minutes. It's fine.
I have some more minutes, okay,
Yes,
because
ma'am.
I want to be conscious of time. Okay. In working with partnerships, one of the things that I learned is that there are so many small pieces that when they come together and they fit nicely together, they result in a bigger ending, a bigger project that, all players bring something to the table. And so, my involvement with it, because I let me tell you, this was all new for me in terms of partnering with other people. But I think one of the things that really impacted me the most was the generosity of the partners. Because when you said you needed something, there was always somebody who could provide that need. So everybody, we always say no man is an island, and that is so true, because everybody brings something to the table, no matter how big or how small it is, but it's something that's needed for the common good of everybody. So, some of the biggest lessons that I learned was to embrace partners, to be able to have them share their areas of expertise and how we could use that in our processes. There's just so much that's involved in it. But when you have willing participants, when you have willing partners, you have people that are willing to see things to fruition. I share sometimes about our neighborhood design partnership and how they were involved in our process in designing out our space, but then I couldn't get rid of them. They were like, oh no, we're not going anywhere. We're staying here till the end. We're in this process. And their involvement was invaluable because, they knew exactly what types of furniture we could benefit from. When I look at one front piece of furniture in particular, there was this desk that rolled up and down, and we ordered 3 of them. But when we went to get the 4th one, they were no longer available. So I was grateful for the fact that, they were able to share that piece of information with us. It's something that we can use, forever, but we can't even get it anymore, which I never would have known. So, participation is just golden, in my opinion. There is just, few words that I can say that would really do justice to how grateful I am for their participation in our overall project.
Thank you very much.
You're so
Any,
welcome.
thank you. And so I appreciate you. We're going to move along now. And you'll just to let you all know, Ms. Lillian will be on the panel, so we'll be able to ask her some questions in a little while. Now we're going to shift over, and let me make sure I'm get ready to share my screen. Oh, here we go. And let's give it to Amanda.
William, do you want me to just tell you when to advance slides, or would you prefer if I just shared from my
Oh,
screen and advanced?
if you want to share from your screen, that is awesome.
Just one less thing on your plate today.
One last thing, I appreciate you.
Are we seeing the slides, everyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Good morning, everyone, and I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Amanda Phillips DeLucas. I am my middle age at this point, white female. I don't really know where I am in the generational spectrum at this point. White female, way too pale for as hot as it has been, but and with brown curly hair. Um, William reached out and asked if I would be interested in doing a bit of a presentation on what does the data tell us about digital equity and digital access in Baltimore, with sort of the guiding framework that we need data to sort of prioritize and point to things. So I'm going to walk you through a little bit about what BINIA does, how we look at data, and then talk through some of the available data. So I have a presentation outline. We'll see if I stick to it. But first, we're going to be talking about how we, BINIA, measure neighborhoods. Then we're going to be talking about, what does the available data tell us about digital access and digital equity in Baltimore? And then I'm going to talk a little bit about how we can sort of combine some data to prioritize action. And I don't think we're going to do questions here. We'll likely do it after the panel. But if you have it, all of my contact information is on the first and last slide, and slides can be shared after this presentation. So how does BINIA measure neighborhoods? So a little bit about what BINIA does. Again, BINIA stands for Baltimore Neighborhood Indicators Alliance, and we are a comprehensive one-stop shop for data indicators and training. So we look at data across multiple topic areas, everything from census demographics to workforce and economic development to sustainability to arts and culture. And we look at that data longitudinally. So we have a data repository that stretches from 2000 to 2023. And every year in May or June, depending on projects, we update a report that's called Vital Signs. And we say that Vital Signs takes the pulse of Baltimore's communities. We look at that data and we update it and we look at trends. Where are things going? What direction are neighborhoods heading in? And our broader mission is to provide accessible, reliable, and actionable data and indicators about, for, and with Baltimore City and its communities. Our goal is really to make sure that you, as residents, as stakeholders in the city, can be empowered and use the data and resources that we have available both on our website and on our open data portals. We are also not the only organization who does work like this. We are a member of the National Neighborhood Indicators Partnership, which is based out of the Urban Institute, but there are over 30 cities who do work just like us. I know we have someone on the call from Detroit. There is a similar organization to us in Detroit. So if you are looking elsewhere, you're looking for other examples, there are people like us out in the world. So you might be sitting on your computer right now and asking, Amanda, what is an indicator? You've been talking about indicators, it's in your name. What does that actually mean? So we have two definitions that we generally use to describe what an indicator is. And the first is that indicators are a measure or a set of measures that helps or expresses progress towards a goal or an outcome. So indicators can be anything. We look at the percentage of vacancy in a particular area, the crime rate. We also look at things like how many people are graduating from college in an area, from high school, those sort of things. They are measures that give a singular measure of what is activities going on in a community. And then we have a sort of nerdier definition, and I like this one, which is that they are a knowledge technology that can be used to quantify, compare, or rank virtually any field of complex human affairs. I like that because it means that our organization is responsible for creating that technology. Technologies are created by humans, and we are the ones who are creating these indicators, and we're the ones who are sort of placing them in the context of Baltimore. So I just like the responsibility of that second definition. And we sort of tell groups that there are three primary ways that you might be able to use an indicator. The first way is through individual statistics that, when combined, provide a picture of what's happening in a community. So for instance, how many folks are employed in a particular neighborhood? How many folks are unemployed? And how many are outside of the workforce entirely? What is the median household income within a particular community? How many folks own homes? These are all indicators that we create and we have available. We also look at, when tracked over time, what is the direction that a particular neighborhood is going in? So, for instance, are the number of green spaces increasing in a neighborhood? Or are students graduating from high school more or less than they were 5, 10 years ago? And then third, they can be used for setting goals or tracking progress. Did an intervention or strategy have its desired impact? So, for instance, if we wanted to increase the number of folks who had broadband internet in that house, what data sources would we look at, and what sort of goals would we want to track? We're not going to go from 0 to 100 in a year, but we want to sort of make incremental benchmarks to say, okay, by 2026, we would like to see this percentage of folks having access to broadband to eventually scale that up. We want to be able to set measurable and actionable goals. And that's all possible through the data that we create. What we are known for is a custom geography. And that's called the Community Statistical Area. I know that sounds a little bit wonky, but we all are from Baltimore. We know that Baltimore is a city of neighborhoods, but Baltimore has 270 neighborhoods, and some are so tiny, and some are really, really large. And it's very difficult to compare really small places to really large places. So, what the Community Statistical Area does is it creates approximations of neighborhood conditions. Um, so, for instance, if you live in the greater Charles Village area, you know that you don't live in the Able neighborhood. But you can also say, okay, I share some general commonalities with Charles Village if I live in Able. I know that they're generally very similar and they might have similar trends. So that's how we put together these particular geographies. You may want to quibble about some of them and be like, my neighborhood is nothing like this other one. And every 10 years, when a new census comes out, we have those community conversations. If you would like to change the geographies, you're more than welcome to engage on those questions. So mark your calendars for 2030 for that particular discussion. So now that we know a little bit about how we think about data, we're going to now focus on what the available data tells us about digital access in Baltimore. I'm going to give a bit of a background here, and I want to do that so you know where this data is coming from, some of its limitations, and what we can sort of understand about it. I kind of feel like data is a dialogue. It's a process of building trust. So I want you to make sure you know as much about the data source as possible before you might use it in your own work. So our data sources primarily come from, I just lost my screen. Okay. Our data sources primarily come from the American Community Survey, or the ACS. And the ACS is an ongoing survey that's administered by the Census Bureau. So the Census Bureau, they're the ones who every 10 years do the decennial census. It asks you where do you live? How many people live at your house? What race are you? These kind of basic socio-demographic questions. But the American Community Survey is a much broader document, and it's about the characteristics of people and the activities that take place within communities. So, for instance, it asks questions like, how long does it take for you to get to work? What means of travel do you take when you get to work? Those sort of broader questions about how you interact in your community. And so every year the survey goes out, people return the survey, and then the survey responses are released in 1 year estimates, and they're released in 5 year estimates. So the 1 year, just those responses from that 1 year, and the 5 year averages 5 years of responses. All of BNIA's data, unless we note otherwise, we use the 5 year estimates, and that's primarily because we are really interested in comparison over time. And in order to do the best possible comparison, we need the widest pool of data available. So if you look in some of our documents, you might see this 5 year age range when we describe the 5 year estimate. And all that really is this 5 year combined sort of, these are all the responses that came into the survey during that particular time. Also, it's not a count. These are not individual counts of people. They're estimates. So a limited number of people will submit the survey, and then the demographers at the census will make some statistical calculations about the conditions within the community based on those responses. And there are three primary questions on the American Community Survey that get us data about digital access. The first is number 10, which is at this house, apartment, or mobile home. Do you or any member of this household own or use any of the following types of computers? So desktop, smartphone, tablet. What this question gets at is, are you using a laptop primarily to access the internet, or are you using a smartphone or tablet? Just using a smartphone might mean you have a less stable internet connection. It might mean your access is perhaps a bit truncated as compared to someone who has a full desktop or a laptop. So that's one way that we can kind of understand this question. The second one is question 11 is at this house, apartment, or mobile home, do you or a member of this household have access to the internet? And then you have different ways to answer that question. Yes, by paying a cell phone company or internet service provider. Yes, without paying a cell phone company or internet service provider, or there's no internet access at this house. And then finally, there's a sort of broader question about how you use the internet. So through what means? Cellular data, broadband, satellite, dial-up, or something else. So those are the three questions that get us the data that we know about digital access in Baltimore City. So there are two indicators that BINIA regularly updates as a part of our repository that are related to digital access and equity. The first is no internet at home, and we define that as the percent of households with no internet of any kind out of any households in an area. So simply put, this is the percentage of households that don't have any way of accessing the internet based on the American Community Survey results. The second one is work from home. And this is the percentage of persons who work from home. So there's slightly different measures, percentage of people versus percentage of households. And work from home, we can kind of assume that there is a stable internet connection one way or another. So they're measuring different things, but they're just kind of different ways to sort of say who and how are people using or not using the internet within communities. So here are what those maps of those two indicators look like. So the image that's going to be on the left of my screen, which I'm not sure is the left on your screen, but it's the percentage of households with no internet at home. So those areas with really, really dark bluish green, those are the areas that have the highest percentage of households without any internet at home. So we see that concentration in West Baltimore, in Sandtown, Winchester, and Harlem Park, in Greater Rosemont, in Forest Park and Walbrook, and then a little north up in Pimlico, Arlington, and Hilltop. All of those communities have a percentage between 22.1% and 31.8% of households without any internet at home. So it's quite a substantial percentage. The sort of lighter blue, that's still sort of larger percentages, but not as great as the darker ones. And then you'll also notice that up in Roland Park, up in North Baltimore, Canton, that we have very low percentages. Like practically no one in those communities does not have access to the internet. These are like 1% to 4%, so very, very small communities. So out of that, we can kind of say, where do we want to target our efforts based on where need is the greatest? So that's how you might want to use this no internet at home map. The second one is working from home. Again, a little bit different. In some ways, it's an inverse of the no internet map, but in some ways it's a little different. You'll notice that Forest Park, Walbrook, which we identified as an area of great kind of internet need, also has a fairly large percentage of folks who work from home, anywhere between 15 and 22%. So it's not always one to one or an inverse of the other one. Notable area here is Midtown. Midtown has pretty good internet access, but not the lowest. But they have a really, really high work from home area, which might suggest something about the population that lives there, and maybe some internal divides within that part of the city. We also calculate indicators for projects. So sometimes we calculate an indicator that we don't update regularly as a part of that vital signs report that I discussed before. And one of those indicators is what's called the Digital Equity Index. The Digital Equity Index came a part of a project that BIMA worked on that was supported by the ABLE Foundation, and ultimately produced a report written by Dr. Don Horrigan that identified the sort of broader problem of digital access in Baltimore. This came out just after the pandemic, really highlighting the challenges of the digital divide. And what the Digital Equity Index does is it takes three indicators to create an index. And that index measures three things: percentage of households with wired internet connections, percentage of households with cellular only data, and percentage of households with one or less computers. So this is kind of looking at a composite of both internet access as well as device access, and how are people utilizing the internet. And we do occasionally update this index to share with folks if they are interested. But that initial report, the creation of the Digital Equity Index, was for the whole state of Maryland. It was saying, okay, who in the state of Maryland can access the internet and who cannot? And so when we take the measures for the statewide, which is this image on the map, we see that nowhere in Baltimore do we have very high digital inclusion as measured by the index. Even in our areas that have very, very high digital access, we are still not up to par with the rest of the state, which I think just kind of highlights the urgency to this issue. Even though there are great disparities within Baltimore as it comes to digital access, we are also just not up to par with what's going on in the rest of the state. But if we keyed that index just to the city, so we calculated it slightly differently, then we do sort of see these areas of very high digital inclusion emerging. So it's just two ways of looking at the same data, but I think overall sort of highlights, again, where those sort of areas to target are, and where might be priorities for programs and outreach. But it also, I think, on a broader spectrum shows there's just a lot of work to be done in Baltimore as a city. And then finally, I'm going to talk very briefly about how to use data to prioritize action. Sometimes we can use data to locate communities of needs, and mapping tools are one way that really helps us overlay different data sets to see where digital need is greatest, as well as the communities that can be served through outreach efforts. So we have data about population, age, income, demographics, educational attainment, commuting, and many, many more. So if there is a particular audience who you might be hoping to reach, come to us. We're happy to show you a map of where those folks are. And what we can also do is overlay particular data. So what this map shows you is the percentage of residents that are over 65 within a particular neighborhood. And then those dots are the number of religious organizations that are in and operating in those areas. So where we got the counts of religious organizations from was from a data set that we purchased. People self-submit their own information. So there's some caveats with that data, but we do think it gives a good sense of where activity might be greatest. And it also shows, where there are overlaps with those really high need areas or high need communities with the sort of already operating faith-based infrastructure that are there. And this is that same sort of counts of religious organizations overlaid with homes with no internet access there. So showing again that there might be some really good opportunities in the greater Rosemont area, as well as Sandtown, Winchester, but it might be a little more challenging in Forest Park and Walbrook. So just kind of a way to think about our projects and programs a little differently and think about prioritization. So that's my spiel. I'm not going to take questions so as to put that after the panel, but happy to answer them once we get to that point of the presentation.
Cool. And the gang, thank you very much. So now we're going to transition into our panel. Thank you all very much. Going to spotlight our panelists. Darian, are you here?
No, but Dr. Bailey's here.
I am here.
Okay, you are?
I'm here.
Okay. I'm trying to find you guys in the list. Up there you are. Appreciate you all being patient with me as I navigate my own personal digital divide. Bailey, up here you go. Appreciate you, Dr. Bailey, coming to us all the way from Houston right now. So I got everybody up here. All right. So we've already had an opportunity for Ms. Lil to introduce herself. So I'm going to turn it over to looking at my screen. Tiara, if you could introduce yourself really quickly.
Absolutely. Good morning, everyone. My name is Tiara Tuggle, and I am with the Mayor's Office of Community Affairs, where I serve as the director of the Faith Outreach Team. On our team, we do have myself as the Christian liaison. We have a Islamic liaison and a Jewish liaison, and we go out to different faith-based organizations and assist in any way that we can throughout the city of Baltimore. And it's a pleasure to be here.
All right. Thank you. Darian, introduce yourself.
Let me come off and mute here. Darian Murdoch, Comcast, Government Affairs and Community Impact. I support all nonprofit organization programs throughout our region, which encompasses Maryland, DC, Virginia, Delaware, West Virginia, and 2 counties in North Carolina. I'm also responsible for our lift zones that we have throughout our region, 110 to be exact, which provide free gig Wi-Fi to communities, nonprofit organizations, churches, et cetera, to those who may not have internet at home. And I also support our Internet Essentials initiative throughout the region to our underserved and income constrained
Cool.
partners.
Okay. Monique. You're mute. Okay.
Yes, I had the cursor there and then C moved it. But anyway, good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. No, it's not afternoon yet. Fantastic. Monique Tate, again, I am co-director with Community Tech New York. However, we are a team of consultants and educators from around the country, and we work with organizations and we help to mentor staff to build infrastructure that supports resilience, equity, and self-determination. At Community Tech New York, we believe that building community networks and emergency preparedness plans build community power. We collaborate with local organizations and help to create community-owned internet infrastructure. Our approach is grounded in the Detroit Digital Justice principles of access, participation, common ownership, and healthy communities.
All right, thank you. And Dr. Bailey.
I am Dr. Al Bailey. I serve as the Minister of Missions and Outreach at the New Psalmist Baptist Church, where our pastor is the very Reverend Dr. Walter Scott Thomas Jr. I'm excited to be with you today to talk about what we do as it relates to digital equity. Great to be here.
Oh, thank you. And Dr. Bailey, I'll start with you. Can you tell us, in your experience, what are some of the best practice for a provider coming to initiate or expand a relationship with a faith-based organization like yours?
I think one of the best things that a provider can do is build relationship with that faith-based institution. One of the things that I've loved that our partners have done is come in and sit with us and asked us what the needs were in our particular community. And as if it's sitting with our older adults to find out what their needs are, sitting with the leaders of our youth ministry, or even sitting with our adults who may be facing, the downsizing of our government and finding out as it relates to workforce development, what are the necessary needs? And then working hand in hand with the faith institution, both organizations bringing their best practices, their A game, if you will, to the table so that we can work together to close this digital divide.
Okay. Sorry, I kept hitting the mute button. Like when you hit it twice, it goes back off. It was crazy. Tiara, if you could, from a governmental perspective, trying to develop and initiate and continue relationships with faith-based organizations, what have you seen as some of the best practices?
I would say one of our practices that we use a lot is like a lunch and learn or something like that, where we come together with the faith-based organization and the organization at hand and just kind of just listen. Everyone bonds over food. So you just kind of sit down and talk and just hear them out so they can feel comfortable and have a better understanding. Us coming in has a better understanding of what they're looking for. And then, as long as we're listening and hearing them out, they'll be able to have that trust, build that trust between the two organizations. So we always kind of go with the lunch and learn way to get started. So.
And Monique, how about you, Community Tech NY? How do you all go about establishing or initiating those relationships with the faith-based organizations?
We are ground walkers and door knockers. So it's always about being in the midst of the community. But one thing I'll say, because as I said, we work across the country. We work in various, Community Tech New York is our name, and that's where our hub is. But Detroit is our equal partner, which is where I am actually right now. So we always make sure to establish relationships with the doers and go-getters in the communities, because sometimes we live in those communities, but other times we don't. And that's the key thing you can never buy is trust. And trust comes from those individuals that are grounded there and that have been walking the pavement for a very long time. I have been working in digital justice and equity since 2012. And as far as I've gone in helping to establish and build community networks, I didn't know nothing about that baby when I first started it, but with working with trusted individuals in that game, when community members get involved, we change our neighborhoods. We make the difference. So ground walking, door knocking, and talking to everybody. I mean, whether they're sitting down on the street and on the corner, because ultimately they know a lot about what's happening and going on in that neighborhood, or whether they are some of the key community leaders there. We have to establish those sincere and authentic partnerships and relationships. I want to step back 1 second in the description because I forgot you said we were supposed to describe ourselves. I'm a Black woman with long locks twisted up right now. I'm not going to say I'm old because I'm going to say that I keep young by interacting with young people.
All right, cool. Thank you. Darian, you talk to us about, because Comcast comes to the digital inclusion space from a much larger position. How do you all go about initiating some of these relationships with faith organizations?
Well, initially, right now, the relationship that we are building with New Psalmist and Reverend Bailey and his team is new ground for us in a way that we're bringing this now. And as he stated, we've had several meetings, and our objective is not to come in and try to change anything that they already have in place. New Psalmist has a bevy of programs that they're already providing to their congregation and community. We're looking to help them to help add or enhance what they already have, provide resources that they may not have known existed, you know, and we prepared a certain amount of funding, to help them with that initiative. But ultimately, New Psalmist leads the charge. We are merely here to assist in whatever way that we can to help them reach that goal. So we have a lot of things that we are planning to do, and what we're starting with New Psalmist um, is part of a larger scale faith-based initiative that we're doing. It's also being done in Detroit. It's being done in Memphis. It's being done in Atlanta. But the program that we are doing, that we are starting actually, will probably be the first program out of all four of those areas to really take flight. So what we do, or what we're planning to do going forward, really sets the trend. Like, we will be that model for the rest of the cities to follow. So just making sure that we are on the same page with our older adult initiative, as he stated, our younger adult initiative, and just our adult initiative altogether, um, is really crucial. So we support the programming um, that they provide to their constituents, congregation, and community. And what we're working on right now is a trainer program where we will create a fellow, a core member from New Psalmist that they have selected that will go through the ACC, American Connection Corps training. And this person will be their quote unquote trainer uh, to help facilitate a lot of these trainings and resources that we're going to provide. And it will not now, it will not only be at New Psalmist, but we will take this to other congregations around the city. But New Psalmist will be the model.
Okay, cool. That's really cool. Ms. Lil, you told us about some of the great parts and the great partnerships and things like that that happen. But can you talk to us about some of the obstacles that you faced and overcame in developing the partnership or really getting it done?
There weren't a whole lot of obstacles, to be honest with you. There were some challenges, some things when you know or you don't know. And I guess I was kind of a little bit remiss in stating that, our Wi-Fi connection through Baltimore City was one of the first projects. So that took a load off of some of the obstacles that we would have faced. It was a project that the city was involved in. And initially, we thought that there was going to be a lot of groundwork that was needed in order to get it up and running. And we found out that the fiber that ran underground ran right to the doorstep of the church. How divine is that? But, I say that to say some of the challenges or obstacles that we would have faced, we did not. We spent time that ended up being fruitless because we didn't have to, had we known of some of the things that existed beforehand. Just bringing people to the table, getting them involved. Like you said, we use this word trust. People have to trust the process. They have to trust what it is that you're doing and knowing that it's going to benefit them. When I think of the space that we use in the church to house our computer hub, there was a disconnect for a minute because the church was like, wait a minute, that's our Sunday school room. What are we going to do now? How are we you're taking away some things in order to add other things that's going to be a bigger benefit. So you have to, really consider all of those challenges as you go forward with trying to install new ideas and new programs into a faith-based community that didn't have them. So those were some of the maybe challenges I would share.
Okay, thank you. Tiara, when we're talking about obstacles and we anchor in on this concept of trust and really being able to build those types of relationships, how do you see communication being fundamental to that?
Yes, absolutely. So Back to what Miss Lil said, that trust part is everything. So, we just try to build that trust with the community. And I would just say one of the backlashes would be the community backlash, because like Miss Lil said, if they don't understand or if they don't fully see the whole vision, that's difficult for, everyone isn't a visionary to see, things that could possibly take place and could happen to better the community as a whole. So we just try to really just bring all of that together, have community meetings and, share whatever the project potentially could be with the entire community. So that way they'll have a full understanding and it won't be like, they're doing this and they didn't let us know. This is our community. Things like that, because, and I'm speaking because I am a part of a church too. My mom is a pastor. So I understand when we try to bring things into the community and we don't necessarily tell them right away, then it's kind of like, well, we were here and, things like that. So just building that trust and absolutely involving the community pretty much every step of the way. It may not be the entire community as a whole, but like maybe the community association president or something like that. So then that way they can communicate those things to the community at large.
Okay, and Reverend Bailey, same to you. As we are, as organizations, as providers coming into partner with faith institutions, developing trust and things like that. Sometimes there are things that we don't know about the organization, about the way that the faith organization fits in the larger community. How should a provider come to the table and communicate the value proposition or any of those things in a way that the faith institution can hear it and still trust?
I think Ms. Tierra was spot on in her answer, in the sense that we have to make sure that we're building that trust. And sometimes, William, building that trust is literally listening to what the issues of the persons are. And as we are talking with them, addressing those specific issues. Sometimes she was exactly right. People don't see the larger picture, they see their issue and they want to solve their issue. And so making sure that in our communication with persons in the community that we're addressing their issue. Because sometimes when you present a big picture, like I'm a very 30,000 foot thinker myself. And so I can see the grand scheme, but sometimes you got to bring it down to the weeds where people are. I have this issue and we're going to help you, Miss Jones, Miss Smith, to solve your issue in this particular area. Then you start winning people on. I also think it's also wonderful to have a connector at the faith institution, a person who people trust, who brings you to the table. When I bring William to the dance at New Psalmist, people will trust William because they trust Reverend Al. And so you want to make sure you connect yourself and that organization connects themselves with a trusted partner within the church.
Thank you for that. And I'll be looking forward to that dance. Monique, as we're talking about obstacles, because I don't want us to shy away from this topic, one of the big obstacles that comes up often is finance. There are times where organizations who are not necessarily part of the faith-based organization, they're like, oh, you all care, you all are led by your religious ethos, and you all should just be doing this because this is the right thing to do. But the reality is that faith institutions still have to pay mortgage. Faith institutions still have to pay the electrical bills and salaries and things like that. So from your national perspective and the work that you've done, how big a deal is finance and how do you have that conversation?
It's extremely big deal. Because we can't do everything that we do without it. Because as I said, we build community networks because they build community power, and equipment costs money. But one of the well, first I'll step back to the finances piece, saying it's extremely big. That's why grants are extremely important, being able to articulate our positions and why we need this funding, and not, as we know now, not only being able to rely on the federal government money, but also being able to rely on foundations. Because, what we were so banking on and so excited about to be able to continue our work, it's been stripped away from us at this time. Hopefully, we'll get some of that money back, but you can't build networks without money. And regrettably, it costs tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars to do so. We, as I mentioned, when we started our project, the project name I hadn't given, but it's the Equitable Internet Initiative in Detroit. And we started that project back in 2016 because it relates to the position we were in. We were the highest disconnected city. 60% of the residents of Detroit, which by the way is the largest Black city in the country, were without internet. And I'm not even going to say to you East Coast people that our median income is $38,000. And so with those kinds of odds before us, we knew connectivity was key and essential. And we knew that we couldn't rely on the body that we're serving, the residents, to be able to supply that kind of funding. We wanted to help us who live in the city of Detroit, the residents who needed connectivity so that we could all expand on to the next levels of everything, getting a job, healthcare services, and all the things that were being put online, and foreseeing it up into right now, 10 years and 15 years down the line. So we went after grants. And at that time, fortunately, federal grants were supplying dollars to go towards building internet infrastructure, as was the BEAD program supposed to do. But I'm not giving up on that because there are still smaller pockets of money available that we have to go after, and especially hitting local foundations like Ms. Lillian mentioned the support from Deutsche, hitting local foundations who also believe in the mission and the cause to be able, because you can't fund networks and community building literally without almost near hundreds of thousands of dollars when you're talking about large spans of areas of impact. As the mapping showed us, we've got a lot of work ahead and cut out for us to impact those areas. When I talk about the Equitable Internet Initiative, we hit key 3 areas in the city of Detroit. The area that we hit, that I was the network manager and community coordinator for, happens to be the largest community built network to this day and still growing. And when we went into that project, we had $1 million, and that project spanned across a couple of years. We don't have $1 million for it today, but we still did continue to go to request funding. But we, when I talk about the work we do, we literally build community networks. We teach community-based residents. We refer to those that we recruit out of the community off the basketball court, who are in schools, who are working in community-based orgs, people who live in the neighborhoods. We teach them to become what we refer to as digital stewards, not digital navigators. They are key because they talk about literacy skills, but digital stewards, we teach them higher level skills about building internet infrastructure in our communities because we're already vested. We want to make sure that that internet stays. So we build community mesh networks, internet that can be shared and ultimately owned by community members. I will say that partners like Comcast and all should be helping to support these community-based neighborhoods even more. Regrettably, we didn't get that kind of support from Comcast, but this is again about the money, reaching out to find providers that get it, that get what you're trying to do and help you to achieve those goals. In Detroit, we have a fiber provider, 123Net, that donated, I call it digital philanthropy. They donated us that internet that we could use to build and share within our communities. They fully knew our story because Comcast, I'll go ahead and admit and say, we just used your business class connection and just shared it out. Maybe bigger than you all thought we were sharing it out, but when I say share it out, the communities that we impact are like 5 miles by 2 miles. So, and within those, you have thousands of residents that you're impacting. And we're not only placing internet in the homes, but also in local places like the first public park that had internet in the city of Detroit. We put it there, Bennett Playground, within the North End neighborhood of the city of Detroit. So in order not to take up too much time, but the money is key and important. And we all contribute, whether we're contributing financially or whether we're contributing time, because time and talent is extremely valuable and important. And that's part of the solution as well.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Reverend Bailey, when some of our providers are coming to the table, some of them have limitations when it comes to engaging with certain doctrines. Some of them may have part of their corporate ethos or corporate direction may not align directly with some of the faith tenets of faith. As we see at the federal level, there are a lot of emphasis on race, sexual orientation, gender, and all of these things that are coming down from the federal government that are limiting some of the opportunities to access funding, to do things, to access infrastructure and stuff like that. How would you recommend an organization that has more secular goals, engage with an institution of faith?
Good question, William. One, I think those secular organizations, when they approach institutions of faith, should come at them knowing that we know what's happening in our world, and knowing what's happening in our world, we oftentimes have to find another way. One of the things that has really benefited us at New Psalmist throughout the years is knowing that if one thing is taken away, then you always have to find another way. One thing that we believe is God always opens another door. You just have to find it. And one of the ways we found it was everything couldn't work through the church. We actually had to establish a community development corporation, a separate 501c3 company. And that corporation was actually able to get resources that sometimes the church could not. And so I recommend every faith institution to establish a separate 501c3, whether it's a community development corporation, an economic development corporation, another entity so that is connected to you, but it allows you to be able to find another way.
Well, that's awesome, sir. I appreciate that particular piece of advice. Darian, let's go back to you. Let's talk about how some of the larger organizations or national organizations can engage with a very local faith institution. So, for example, Comcast is a huge national corporation with inroads all over the United States. But it sounds like you all have been able to take this very hyper local focus in partnering with New Psalmist and some of these other places to navigate that, bringing these large national resources to a very hyper local place. How would you recommend some of our other providers do that, or maybe in the opposite direction, bringing some of the information and some of the programs that they've done at a local level and bring them up to maybe more national, or scale them up to a national perspective?
Different approaches. So this particular initiative that we're working on now, it started sometime last year. It came to us from our corporate team, the faith-based initiative, and we had a salon style type dinner where we invited pastors from various churches throughout Baltimore City, Baltimore County, and they all came. And as we stated, we allowed them to basically tell us what it is they're working on, what it is they're doing with their congregation and community, and what it is that they need help with. Out of that meeting, Reverend Bailey was the first to come forth with a plan for us to help them do the job that they're already doing. And that started the process right there. Like no one else really came forward like New Psalmist did, um, with a proposed plan, like literally a proposed plan laid out from toot to boot. Um, and for me, that was, that was the writing on the wall. And there may have been some apprehension, because not a lot of larger organizations work with faith congregations or churches. They just don't for whatever reason. But um, I've worked with New Psalmists in the past before in a different capacity. Uh, and I was born and raised in the church. My mom is a pastor, right? So I understand the inner workings of the church. So I knew that this would be a great partnership. And we did a couple things last year um, that benefited both parties. And for us, it's not just about a lot of people look at Comcast and they think, oh, my bill's so high. Why my bill so high? Can I get my bill low? But they don't know the other side that we do in the community and how many organizations we support, not just monetarily, but we do a lot of volunteer work. I lead that initiative also throughout our region. Team Up is our employee volunteerism, where we go out to different communities. I think years ago it used to be called Comcast Cares Day, where one day all throughout Comcast we did something in the community, whether it was beautification or rebuilds, etc. But now this Team Up is year long, every month, different organizations. And as far as DEI goes, Comcast has always been a DEI employer. So we have various ERG groups, which are our employee resource groups, which their title is specific to their nature. So we have Black Employees Network for Black employees. You have Young Professionals, you have Women's, you have VetNet for your veterans. But our motto has always been, you don't have to be to belong. And those ERGs work collectively together and do volunteer work with different organizations outside of Comcast. So to your point, William, the communities that we serve with our products and services, we should also be able to serve with our resources to help them improve digital equity, digital opportunity, um, and whatever else. And that's what we're doing. That's the work that I do in my department. That's what my department does. Um, it's not just about, I mean, we do different things to franchise agreements and things of that nature. We do a lot of sponsorships. We do a lot of foundation grants. But ultimately, the goal is to serve the communities that we serve.
Cool in the gang. Tiara, I want to jump over to you because, again, this concept of trust and preparation and communication, it keeps coming up. How should an organization come to the table and, well, get information before we even come to the table? Because a lot of it sounds like, hey, let's try to figure out what's going on and not just come in like, hey, my name is William and I'm here to help. And let me tell you guys what you all need and what you all should be doing. There should be some research that I do on my part. And a lot of it shouldn't, for me at least, it feels like it shouldn't be like a bunch of stereotypes that I've read over through the news and things like that. How would someone do the research so that they know how to effectively engage a faith institution of faith?
Well, I guess you can say this is a shameless plug, but our office specifically, we are looking for organizations to partner with us because if you all knew how many calls we get, and we're not getting it just from the Christian faith, from all faiths, trying to figure out what resources do you have, what resources are out there, what money, what partnerships are out there that we can collab with. And again, shameless plug, just reach out to us. We would love to have a list of organizations that are looking for faith-based organizations to partner with, because sometimes I don't have an answer for them, unless I come across something or meet someone in passing, things like that. So that's what our office is for, to bridge that gap between organizations and faith-based places of worship. So that would be my my response to that. And then we can, our team, we set up the meetings. We, hey, maybe you could set up with this organization and try to create that bond, because at that point my team is the trust, so the if the faith organizations come to us, then they say, hey, could you help us, and then we bridge that gap. So that's what I would say. If there are any organizations that are looking to partner with any faith-based organizations, you can always reach out to the Mayor's Office of Community Affairs, because we're always trying to help faith-based organizations in ways that we can't. So,
I appreciate that, and I'm gonna make sure that you drop your contact information in the chat later on, so everybody will have it. All right, we're gonna shift now and open it up. Somebody say something. We're gonna shift now and open this up for questions. I'm also going to bring Amanda to the spotlight as well, if I could figure out how to. Oh, I don't know if I could do that. I think I might have reached capacity.
No problem. I'll
Oh,
be
here we
on
go. Here you go.
standby.
Oh, because you didn't have your video on, it wouldn't let me spotlight you. Okay, I got it. Everybody is learning digital skills together. You see, this is how we do it. All right. So if there's anybody, any of the participants that have a question for any of our panelists or for Amanda, just raise your hand and we'll call you up. I'll be more than happy to ask some more questions if you don't. Okay. So let me go ahead and ask some more questions then. I appreciate it. So as we are looking, and this is open for any of our panelists and Amanda, as we are looking as organizations who want to engage communities that have been disinvested, what is the best type of programs to bring? Because from the city's perspective, as we talk about the digital, as we talk about digital inclusion and digital equity, we look at broadband access, we look at digital skills, we look at making sure people have appropriate devices and ongoing support. Are there any of those that seem more appropriate than others, or more apt, or that the organization would be more receptive? And after you all answer this, we're going to get to Lauren Williams, because Lauren has a question. That's an open question for anybody.
I can start. One of the things that I think are important skills to help us build up within our communities are community organizing and communication skills, because we are the advocates that help to promote and fight for those things that we want in our neighborhoods and in our communities. So to help us build up those skills to understand policies and how do you impact those policies, establishing relationships with our local political representatives, finding out who's on our side for real, who will help and stand with us when we are requesting certain service in the neighborhood, whether it's easier and better access to internet, to water. We have a lot of issues with that here in the city, clean water in particular. So it's that helping us to build, or helping us and community members to build those skills about advocacy. How do you fight for and support any of those initiatives that you want to happen? And most of them are about appealing to and going to our political figures and making sure that our positions are heard and supported. Because one of the things I'll quickly mention, I attended it on Capitol Hill and went to offices of senators and congresspersons. And they said, when we don't hear from community members, we figure that these bills or whatever are getting ready to be put on the floor or going to pass, or that they need to vote on. We need to hear from constituents to know how they feel. And they said, when we're hearing from lobbyists and those people who are in front of them all the time, who are often paid to help promote a certain position or argument, they feel like we don't care about it. So our voice is being heard, and knowing how to do that, I think, is an important skill to teach. And it is impacted digitally because all of them accept stories and positions and voting requests online. So the connectivity that we have in helping us to use that tool powerfully to impact decisions that affect us for long terms is important.
Well, anybody else on the panel want to address that? Yeah, Amanda.
I can step in, and I think this is on kind of a community prioritization level. And I'm going to start with a little bit of an anecdote, which I was visiting my grandmother in New Jersey. She lives in a town that she has lived in her entire life. And this past year, they decided that they were going to put her parking renewal entirely online. So my mom, my dad, and I, so three people come in, and we get to the form, and it requires uploading a driver's license. It requires uploading her insurance, required another form of identification. And all of us were like, this is complicated even for us. It requires multiple steps. It's not intuitive. It's a new process of things. And more specifically, it required the turning over personally identifiable information. And we know that our seniors are targeted for scams more than any other population in the US. And we know that they are particularly susceptible because of gaps in digital skills. And so we often think about digital skills in terms of learning programs, learning software. We also need to think about the sort of interactions of civic systems and our senior population one way or another. So I think that the digital navigators programs that we have, those are really good ways to sort of navigate those resources and ask questions. I may or may not have emailed the mayor of my grandmother's small town to say, hey, what are you doing here? But these are sort of the communities that I think that the faith community is actually really well poised to identify or interact with, both because there's trust there. These are communities and folks who have been in your institutions for quite some time. So you're a trusted leader to kind of say, hey, this is something you need to sort of think about and learn how to interact with, even if there's resistance there.
I appreciate that. That's a really good example. They are moving a lot more resources as funding becomes limited. They're moving a lot more of these application and things like online. So that's a really great example. Does anybody else have want to take on that question before we go to Lauren? All right, Lauren.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I want to start by saying I feel very privileged to be in this room. I see a lot of familiar names and faces in the digital equity and literacy community, so I'm just grateful to be here. My question is that as someone who wants to actively be a part of helping bridging the digital divide, what are some steps that I could take to even if it's unpaid, to just be a little bit more involved. As we know, this is a very small group, as again, me seeing so many familiar faces and names. And there's not a lot of job opportunities for this field. I previously worked at the library under I'm sure you all know, the Affordable Connectivity Program, which was ended early. And a lot of these jobs are grant funded, and there aren't a lot of permanent positions. So I've taken it basically as the mindset, well, hey, look, this is my passion. I'm even willing to volunteer. How is that something that I could basically break into kind of this group and community of helping and wanting to bridge the digital divide?
Any of our panelists?
Oh, I would say, again, feel free to connect with my office, the Mayor's Office of Community Affairs, and we're always willing to send out information, to create Zoom calls and things like that, and just send it out. And, you can share, what you have with our database.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And I'm going to put my information in the chat again.
Great. Thank you so much. And I believe there is a pastor on that is on the panel. I wanted to inquire. I want to implement um, classes or opportunities for seniors or persons who aren't knowledgeable in digital literacy to have the opportunity to learn. I'm currently pursuing an IT degree, but I'm very well versed and I would love to do classes. What's a way that I could approach my I guess faith-based community and saying, hey, I want to put on a program or something to where people in need can benefit from extensively learning digital skills?
One bit of advice I would offer is that you share with someone on staff at that faith institution that you have these resources and skills. One thing that we always say at New Psalmist is every resource sits in that sanctuary, and you are one of those resources. And so please share that with the persons who are the administration of the church and let them know that you have this resource. And more than likely, again, since everything is sitting in the sanctuary, there's persons who are a part of that church who work for some of these other organizations. Some of the best connections that we've made have been members like yourself who said, hey, I have this skill. And then when you share that with us as persons on staff, I then connect you with another member who's actually working for that other organization because, everything is right in the house.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
I'll add just a little bit to that, Lauren, and thank you for that question. Um, One of the things that was very successful for us in getting to know who needed help and how we could support them is I attended every community-based in the target neighborhood that I was in. I attended every community-based organization meeting that there was, meaning when they had their block club meeting, their neighborhood and community meetings, association meetings, because that's also how I got to know who the leaders were and how they were connected. Even for us, one of the things that's big in Detroit and I think in Baltimore also, urban farming. Many of those urban farms had key community connections because it was mentioned earlier about wraparound services. People don't care about what we're doing until they know how much we care and what we're able to offer to help to support and provide them. So working in food giveaways, various things like that are how I got to meet community members and found out what's going on in organizations and how I could share my skills and my resources. And ultimately, as we introduce the Equitable Internet Initiative, how we could help people who were not connected to get connected or to get skills.
I like to piggyback on what Monique is saying too. I just think community organizations are the way, a good way to go, along with the faith based, because I was one of these people that just didn't think I had to go to the community meetings, but once I started going, it was like this is where the information is being communicated widely. So you get to connect with people with different skill sets, different gifts, different opportunities. I also believe that in every community, there's a school. And the schools is another way to connect because our children are always in need of what you possess. So it's not just the faith-based community, even though that's important. It's the communities at large. And so, I'm very heavily involved in my community school. And as an outgrowth, they know now that my time is wrapped up in teaching digital skills and that type of thing. But we have a whole new organization that's church, and they provide everything that the school needs right now. The resources, the volunteers, they give freely. So I would say yes, definitely connect with the community organizations as well as your community schools, and just to find out the farm. We have a farm. Who would know that if you didn't come to the community meeting? And they could use you. They're always advertising. They have positions. So that would be my input, to you that you could take advantage of.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm extremely grateful for you guys' feedback. And I did see some messages in the chat, so I wanted to acknowledge thank you as well. I'll be going through and getting everyone's information. Thank you again.
No problem. Thank you. One of the things that Lauren did bring up is an opportunity to look for jobs. Um, a lot of times people get jobs when my parents were growing up, it was work smarter, not harder. For me, when I was growing up, because I'm a man of a certain age now, but when I was growing up, it was it's not what you know, it's who you know. And what I'm teaching my kids is not necessarily who you know, it's what do people know about you, and what do they say in the rooms that you're not in, because a lot of these decisions get made by people who don't necessarily actually know you. And Lauren's really right. But when you volunteer, when people have an opportunity to get to see, like, wait, when she shows up for free and gives it her all and really has an impact on the community, what's she gonna do when I give her a couple dollars? Well, hopefully more than a couple dollars. Let's be, we're not trying to give people slave wages, but when they get the opportunity to see how much you impact when you are doing it on your own time, it changes the dynamic when they are thinking about who to hire. And also you stay at top of mind. It's not, well, let me look through all of these resumes. It's, oh, wait, Lauren. Yeah, let's call her up and just see what's going on with it. She mentioned that she's interested in this. She mentioned that she did this, and I've already seen her. All right. Oh, wow.
And if I can, I'll
Oh, yeah.
echo that. William, not only is that how I got my own job at New Psalmist, but it's also how I've seen many persons get actual positions, volunteering their time, using the skill set that they had to just try to make life better for others. And others will notice because people are always watching. And so, by all means, if you have a gift, please share it with the community because God will open up an opportunity for you to be blessed as
well. And while I did put that in the context of getting a job and getting other opportunities, I'm grateful that you kind of anchored us back, Reverend Braley. No matter what job or whatever you get, when you donate your time, when you contribute to others, you actually get a chance to change people's lives. Like, you get to have an impact on them. I can't tell you how many people have learned these digital skills and feel a lot more comfortable because they've gone to the Johnson Square digital, their tech hub. How many people, even when, because the Affordable Connectivity Program, ACP, went away, how many people were able to save a little bit of money, $300, $400 the year that they were on. And for a lot of the people we serve, that $20, $30 a month, that $45 a month literally can make the difference between keeping lights on and lights off. That is a copay for somebody to get their medication and things like that. So I don't want to just we got to be focused on making sure that our bills are paid too, but also make sure you understand how big an impact you could have on the people that we serve. All right. Just because I got to watch time, because my team gets on me about that, because every once in a while we get into this and next thing you know, it's about 2:30 and I done miss meetings and stuff like that. And they're like, okay, what did you do? All right. So, but I'm going to stay true to the agenda. So I'm going to stay true to the agenda, and we'll be on board. But we'll stay after the official program ends at 12:30. But what I want to do is to give our panelists an opportunity to just your final thought, your takeaway. What if people, if we just took the last 5 minutes of this this summit and we put it on the end and we cut everything else off, this last 5 minutes, and we put that up. Not now, don't take all 5 minutes, because I saw Tiara getting a little excited just now. Not all 5 minutes, okay. But like, what it would be if this is all they saw? What would be their takeaway? Let's start with you, Tiara.
My takeaway would be, I guess it's just a great thing to see that there are organizations that are willing and looking to work with faith-based organizations, and it wasn't a common thing. So it's just a great thing to know that we have that now. And if you're a faith-based organization and you're looking to better your organization and enhance it, we have that here. So that's all I would say. And thank you all.
Let me unmute, because that would probably be helpful. Amanda, what would be your takeaway?
Just that, look, different communities have different needs when it comes to digital access, and we have so many different types of communities, neighborhoods, people, places, things in the city who can be served by programs. So just thinking about that kind of specificity there. There's not always going to be a one fit. Uh, it's not always going to fit. So find the right fit.
Very cool. Monique, what is your takeaway?
Since Community Tech New York focuses on building community networks and emergency preparedness plans, I'll tell you that faith-based organizations have been our closest and dearest partners and friends. First of all, they have some of the highest buildings and towers that we need to be able to shoot out internet that can go over to community members. But even more important than that, they have our same goal and common goal. And I've used this in meetings with them in bringing community-based organizations on board. They have the same goal of serving the people, serving the community. So if that's true and they have it at heart, so don't be afraid to approach them. I'll share one quick story. We have devices on top of the Blessed Sacrament here in Detroit. It's the largest cathedral in our city and a historic structure. It's over 80 feet high. It overshoots the entire city almost, much less our community. And although the priest was on board, I had to go to the archdiocese and the bishop to be able to tell the story. So also don't be afraid to walk in the doors, attend the church meetings, talk to the people, and approach the leadership. And as the Comcast person said, with a plan, as long as we've got a clear-cut plan, they're on board usually and want to go for us because we did get the entire archdiocese and bishop approval, and we're shooting internet from those 80 feet right now.
Oh, Dr. Bailey, what's your takeaway?
My takeaway is this: we can do so much more together than we could ever do apart. And while we know what's happening in our world right now, in our community, with our government right now, one of the best things, if there is anything that good that comes from it, is that now we're all able to work together. We have come out of our silos, and now we are able to bring our A game to the table, work with each other so that we can together build community. It was never just about the faith community building community. It's never about corporations or city agencies building community. It's about all of us coming together. And when we all come together, that's when the world has to look out, because that's when we're operating in our best. And so I'm just looking forward to further partnerships with all of you so that we can make the best of our community.
Oh, thank you. And we started with you, Ms. Lil, and we will end with you, Ms. Lil. What is your takeaway?
Okay. My takeaway is, I just feel the hearts of everyone that's been involved in this conversation. And I just see where a bigger, if we had one common place where we could communicate, bring all of this together and we could just, tap into. I just think that's something that maybe, in the city, having a common avenue where we can just touch bases with each other, because there's so many resources and everybody, as Reverend Bailey said, we have this common bond, this common goal, this common heart for the people, and there is a need, and we're possessing some of what they need. They just don't know how to come and get it exactly. So my takeaway is, just appreciating where we are in this process and being able to extend it further.
Oh, I appreciate that. And my team and I, we're going to be having a meeting sometime soon. And somehow I think that is going to mysteriously end up on our agenda. We'll see how that happens. Okay. All right. Thank you to all of our panelists and everybody else who has been participating and who's joined us today. I'm hopeful that this will not be the last time that we will come together. Actually, I'm sure it's not. And look forward for a evaluation to come in the mail. Actually, I think I dropped it in the chat. I'll drop it in there again. I will be on until about 1 o'clock, just in case anyone has any questions, want to continue to talk, continue the conversation. but I know we're over time a little bit, and so I want to be as judicious as possible. And thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No problem. Have a great one.
Have a great day.
Have a
You
great
all
one,
as well.
everyone.
Oh, yes. And yeah, Miss Millie, I'm
Miss
grateful
Williams,
that you put that in. Yes.
wonderful job.
Oh, thank you.
Lauren, I put my information in chat. If they don't want you, the housing authority does. Come on over. We definitely can use the help.
And it's Cheryl.
Hey, Serena. Hey, Miriam. How y'all doing?
Hi, Cheryl. How are you?
Doing great. Miss you guys so much.
Oh, miss you too. We were
have to
actually
have a lunch
talking about
date.
you. We
We
were
gotta have a lunch date soon.
oh, absolutely. You don't threaten to feed me. I'll be right over there. We're actually just talking about you not too long ago. Actually, we talked about you a little bit of day to day, or give an example of effective partnerships,
Oh,
how to use the data, and especially the qualitative data. Because I was telling them that Cheryl makes sure she gets outside and have people come through. That she doesn't just send emails out and then hope that somebody comes through. She goes out, knocks on doors, and leans on them.
we have to do that. We have to do that. We have to shy away from paper. We're trying to go paperless. So we have to shy away from paper and get back to face-to-face conversation.
So also that's one of the things that we're talking about as we develop the strategic plan for community engagement in the upcoming year, is making sure that as city agencies and some of our federal agencies are moving, like Amanda mentioned, they're moving to the online processing, that we try to get ahead of that and make sure that we get either some trainings for trainers or trainings for people who are available, especially little things like when they ask you for copies of your ID and stuff like that. How do you what apps actually work with taking those pictures, converting them PDFs, and also working with some of the city agencies to make sure that they can take pictures and the JPEGs and the PNG formats as well as PDFs. Because I know sometimes me sitting there taking pictures of stuff and then trying to find the right app so I can press it and
convert them and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's a little bit much.
So I'm definitely looking forward to the continued partnership, because our HCBE office just stopped taking everyday walk-ins.
See you later, Monique.
And
Oh,
so
yeah,
we
you
are
told me
now,
that.
we are now trying to, I am now trying to get our residents to, hey, we need an email address, we need a phone number, we need something from you other than your presence sometimes, because sometimes it's one of us and many of you, and we need to be able to contact you in another format. So that's going to be my goal for 2026 from here on to then, to get people signed up and us have an affirmative working email address, because they'll change phone numbers 20 times, but their email address won't change. So that's my goal for from now to 2026, to get people an actual working email address.
Well, also one of the things that we've been working with is trying to get people to make sure that they check their email address, because we've ended up in some situations where some community members have been disappointed that we haven't shared information with them, and it's like, but we did.
We did.
And here's the emails that show it. Oh, you know what? I don't even check that often. It's like, oh, well, okay, all right, I get that, but I don't, and honestly, stuck. I don't know what else to do because, well, I do know what to do because, but some of my colleagues say that just going to people's houses and knocking on their doors is, what do they say? Rude. It's not professional, but it is effective. So
it's effective. It's effective. So we have to go with what works.
Sure, we appreciate you so much. We definitely value your continued partnership.
I'm gonna call you too soon, Serena, because we need to get. Are we doing a digital week this year?
Yes, working on that now. So yes, I'll ping you to share what we have going on so far.
All right. Good chatting with you all. Have a great week. Get home safe in the storm.
You too.
Yes.
Good day, everyone.
All right. Take care.
All right. See you later, Cheryl. Anybody else have any other questions or anything they want to discuss? All right. If not, I am going to end the meeting for everyone so we can get ready to whatever comes up next. And please make sure that you get home safely. We dropped our contact information in the chat, and we'll be sending out a follow-up email as well. All right, everyone, have a wonderful day, and thank you so much.